The avoidant who loves you will never tell you directly. Their terror of vulnerability makes such honest declarations feel like emotional suicide. But love this deep can't be completely hidden, no matter how sophisticated their defense mechanisms become. It leaks out in ways they don't realize, creating a secret language that speaks volumes about their true feelings while maintaining the illusion of detachment they desperately need to feel safe. Understanding this hidden communication requires you to look beyond their words and focus on their actions, beyond their casual demeanor and notice their unconscious behaviors, beyond their claims of indifference and recognize the patterns that reveal someone fighting desperately against their own heart. The avoidant who loves you is constantly betrayed by their own nervous system, which refuses to cooperate with their conscious attempts to appear unaffected by your existence. Their love shows up in the details they claim not to notice, the information they gather while pretending not to care, the proximity they create while maintaining emotional distance. They've learned to love you in code, expressing devotion through surveillance, care through casual encounters, and need through seemingly coincidental appearances in your life. The signs of their hidden love are written in a language of contradictions. They remember everything while acting like they remember nothing. They check on you constantly while maintaining they've moved on. They show up everywhere while claiming it's all coincidence. Each sign represents their heart overriding their head, their attachment system refusing to cooperate with their avoidance strategies. Recognizing these signs isn't about false hope or wishful thinking. It's about understanding the complex psychology of someone whose fear and love exist in equal measure, creating behaviors that seem contradictory but are actually perfectly consistent with someone who wants you desperately while being terrified of that wanting. Their love exists. It's just buried under layers of self-protection that make it almost impossible to recognize unless you know exactly what to look for. Sign number 1. They remember everything but pretend they don't. The avoidant who loves you possesses a photographic memory for details about your life that would shock you if you knew the extent of their mental catalog. They remember your coffee order from a date 6 months ago, the story you told about your childhood pet, the exact words you used when describing your career goals. This isn't casual attention. It's the hypervigilant focus of someone whose nervous system has marked you as supremely important, ensuring that every piece of information about you gets stored with the precision of crucial data. Watch how they casually drop these remembered details into conversation while pretending they just happen to recall them. They'll mention that new restaurant you wanted to try, acting like it randomly came to mind, when in reality they've been thinking about taking you there for weeks. They'll ask about your sister's wedding plans, pretending to make polite conversation while actually demonstrating that they've been mentally tracking the important events in your life with the dedication of a personal assistant. Their memory retention about you stands in stark contrast to how they handle information about other people in their life. They might forget their colleague's birthday or their friend's relationship status, but they know exactly when you have important meetings, when you're feeling stressed about family issues, and when you mentioned feeling excited about upcoming plans. This selective memory reveals where their emotional investment truly lies, despite their attempts to appear equally detached from everyone. The most telling aspect of their memory is how they remember the emotional context around shared experiences, not just the factual details. They recall not only what you wore on your first date, but how you laughed when you spilled coffee on yourself. They remember not just the restaurant you went to, but the expression on your face when you talked about your dreams. These emotional memories indicate someone who was fully present and engaged, filing away not just information, but the feelings associated with your interactions. They often betray the depth of their attention through seemingly innocent comments that reveal just how closely they've been observing you. They might mention that you seem tired lately, that you've been posting different types of music on social media, or that your work schedule appears to have changed. These observations require consistent monitoring disguised as casual awareness, revealing someone who tracks your emotional and practical patterns with the intensity of someone who cares deeply about your well-being. Their pretense of not remembering becomes particularly obvious when they accidentally reveal knowledge they shouldn't have if they were as detached as they claim. They might reference a conversation you had months ago that they supposedly forgot, or show up with something you mentioned wanting in passing. These slips reveal the gap between their performed indifference and their actual level of investment in your happiness and comfort. The avoidant's exceptional memory about you extends to remembering things you've forgotten yourself, comments you made during vulnerable moments, preferences you mentioned once in passing, stories you told when you were feeling particularly open. When they bring up these forgotten details, it reveals not only that they were listening intently, but that they've been mentally reviewing and preserving these moments long after they occurred. Their memory also includes tracking changes in your patterns, moods, and behaviors over time. They notice when you start doing things differently, when your energy shifts, when you seem happier or sadder than usual. This longitudinal awareness requires consistent attention and emotional investment that contradicts their claims of having moved on or not thinking about you regularly. Sign number 2, they check on you through others. The avoidant who loves you has created an elaborate information network that rivals intelligence operations, using mutual friends, social connections, and casual acquaintances to monitor your emotional state and life circumstances while maintaining their facade of detachment. This indirect surveillance allows them to satisfy their desperate need to know you're okay without risking the vulnerability that direct contact would require, creating a one-way connection that feels safer than actual communication. Their questioning of mutual friends appears casual and polite, but it's actually carefully crafted information gathering designed to extract maximum details about your current situation. They'll ask your shared friend how everyone's doing, then listen intently when your name comes up, or they'll specifically mention you in passing to see what information flows naturally from the conversation. These interactions are masterclasses in appearing disinterested while being desperate for intelligence. Watch how they react when friends mention you. Their body language shifts subtly, their attention sharpens, and they ask follow-up questions that seem natural but are actually probing for specific information about your emotional state, your dating life, and your general well-being. They've learned to gather this intelligence without appearing overly interested, but their increased engagement during conversations about you reveals their true investment level. The avoidant often volunteers to help with activities or events where they know you'll be discussed or where information about you might naturally emerge. They'll offer to help plan group gatherings not because they're particularly social, but because organizing gives them access to information about your availability, your current relationships, and your general life circumstances. This strategic positioning allows them to stay informed while appearing helpful rather than investigative. Their information gathering extends to monitoring your social circle for changes that might indicate shifts in your emotional state or romantic situation. They notice when you start spending time with new people, when your friend group dynamics change, or when mutual acquaintances mention you seeming different lately. This attention to your social ecosystem reveals someone tracking your life with the intensity of someone who cares deeply about your happiness and security. They often use shared activities or mutual commitments as opportunities to extract information about you without making their interest obvious. During group conversations, they'll steer discussions toward topics that might naturally include updates about your life, then listen with the intensity of someone receiving critical intelligence while maintaining the appearance of casual social engagement. The most revealing aspect of their indirect checking is how they remember and follow up on information they've gathered about your life circumstances. If they learn through friends that you're dealing with work stress, they might later ask those same friends how you're handling things. Or if they hear you're excited about a new opportunity, they'll inquire about how it's progressing. This follow-through reveals sustained concern rather than momentary curiosity. Their checking behavior often intensifies during periods when they sense you might be going through difficult times or significant changes. They'll increase their casual questioning of mutual friends during times they perceive as potentially challenging for you, revealing a protective instinct that operates even when they're maintaining distance. This heightened information gathering during your vulnerable periods shows care that extends beyond mere curiosity about an ex-partner's well-being. Sign number 3, they keep showing up in your life, coincidentally. The avoidant who loves you becomes a master of orchestrated coincidences, appearing in your orbit with the frequency of someone who's either extremely lucky or extremely strategic about their presence in your life. These accidental encounters are carefully calculated to create proximity without the vulnerability of admitting they want to see you, allowing them to satisfy their need for connection while maintaining plausible deniability about their intentions. Their sudden interest in activities and locations that align with your schedule would be suspicious if it weren't so perfectly executed to appear natural. They start shopping at your grocery store, working out at your gym, or frequenting the coffee shop near your office, always with reasonable explanations that make their presence seem coincidental rather than intentional. These location choices represent their careful study of your patterns and their willingness to adjust their own routines to increase the likelihood of random encounters. Watch how prepared they are for these supposedly spontaneous meetings. They're always dressed well, emotionally composed, and ready with casual conversation that doesn't reveal how much thought went into the possibility of seeing you. Their preparedness betrays the planning that went into these encounters, from choosing the right time to visit places where you might be, to having conversation topics ready that seem natural, but demonstrate they've been thinking about you. The timing of their appearances often coincides with moments when they sense you might need support, or when they're particularly missing you themselves. They'll show up at your favorite restaurant the week you mentioned having a difficult time at work, or appear at social events they normally wouldn't attend when they've heard through mutual friends that you're going through something challenging. These perfectly timed coincidences reveal someone monitoring your emotional state and positioning themselves to be available when you might need familiar comfort. Their behavior during these encounters strikes a careful balance between seeming happy to see you and maintaining emotional distance. They're warm but not overly enthusiastic, interested but not invasive, present but not clingy. This measured response indicates they've thought extensively about how to handle these interactions to maximize the connection while minimizing the risk of revealing their true intentions or triggering their own vulnerability fears. The avoidant often creates these coincidental encounters during times when they're struggling with their own emotions about your relationship. After periods of missing you intensely or fighting internal battles about reaching out directly, they'll engineer ways to see you that feel safer than direct contact. These appearances serve as pressure valves for their emotional needs, allowing them to reconnect briefly without the commitment that purposeful contact would require. They frequently have legitimate reasons for being wherever you encounter them, but the frequency of these legitimate reasons appearing suddenly in their life reveals the strategic planning behind their presence. They might start attending church services you've mentioned, join groups or activities in your social circle, or develop sudden interests in hobbies that place them in your vicinity with remarkable regularity. The most telling aspect of their coincidental appearances is how they manage to show up during emotionally significant moments in your life. Near your birthday, around holidays that were meaningful to your relationship, or during times when they've learned you're celebrating achievements or dealing with challenges. This timing requires careful tracking of your life events and deliberate planning to be present during moments when you might be most open to reconnection. Their post-encounter behavior also reveals the intentional nature of these meetings. They often seem energized and lighter after seeing you, suggesting these interactions serve important emotional functions for them. They might increase their coincidental appearances after positive encounters or decrease them if you seem unreceptive, indicating they're carefully calibrating their presence based on your responses. Sign number 4. They react strongly to signs you're moving on. The avoidant who loves you can maintain their cool facade through almost anything except clear evidence that you're genuinely happy and moving forward without them. When faced with signs that you're healing, dating someone new, or simply thriving in your independence, their carefully constructed emotional walls crack in ways that reveal the depth of their feelings and the extent of their fear about losing you permanently. Their composure falters most noticeably when they encounter evidence of your romantic involvement with someone else. Despite their claims of wanting you to be happy and their apparent acceptance of your separation, seeing you with a new partner or hearing about your dating life triggers reactions that expose their true emotional state. They might become uncharacteristically quiet, ask pointed questions about your new relationship, or suddenly increase their own dating activity as a defensive response to the threat of your romantic unavailability. Watch how they respond to your happiness in general. The better you're doing without them, the more agitated they become beneath their surface calm. When mutual friends report that you're thriving, pursuing new goals, or seeming genuinely content with your life, the avoidant experiences a complex mix of emotions that often manifests as increased attempts to insert themselves into your awareness. Your independence threatens their unconscious assumption that you need them as much as they need you. Their strong reactions often appear as sudden changes in their own behavior patterns when they perceive you're moving on. They might abruptly start dating, make dramatic life changes, or begin posting more frequently on social media. All behaviors designed to either capture your attention or convince themselves they're equally capable of moving forward. These reactive behaviors reveal someone who's been psychologically dependent on your continued availability even while maintaining distance. The avoidance panic about your moving on frequently manifests as subtle attempts to re-establish connection just when you seem to be gaining genuine emotional distance. They'll reach out with casual messages, manufactured emergencies, or requests for help precisely when they sense you're becoming less emotionally invested in their absence. This timing reveals their unconscious monitoring of your emotional state and their strategic responses to perceived threats to your continued attachment. Their reactions become particularly intense when they realize your moving on might be permanent rather than temporary processing of your relationship's end. The possibility that you might actually be happier without them, that your life might be fuller in their absence, or that you might find someone who can give you what they couldn't, triggers existential panic about their importance and value in your life. They often respond to signs of your progress with increased attempts to demonstrate their own value or desirability. They might achieve professional success and ensure you hear about it, develop new interests that make them seem more interesting, or showcase their own healing journey in ways designed to capture your attention and admiration. These efforts reveal someone desperately trying to maintain their relevance in your emotional landscape. The most telling reactions occur when they realize you're developing the emotional skills and security that they couldn't provide during your relationship. Seeing you become more confident, more secure in yourself, or more capable of healthy relationships without their involvement threatens their unconscious belief that their limitations were relationship problems rather than personal ones. Your growth exposes their stagnation in ways that feel deeply threatening. Their strong reactions also include attempts to minimize or discredit your progress, not out of malice but out of psychological self-protection. They might suggest your new happiness is temporary, your new relationships are rebound situations, or your apparent healing is superficial. These attempts to diminish your growth reveal their desperate need to believe you still need what only they could provide, even though they were unable to provide it consistently. Sign number 5, they give you special treatment they don't give others. The avoidant who loves you unconsciously creates a category of 1 when it comes to how they treat you compared to everyone else in their life. Despite their attempts to appear equally detached from all relationships, they consistently make exceptions for you that reveal the depth of their feelings and the special place you occupy in their emotional hierarchy. This preferential treatment operates largely beneath their conscious awareness, making it one of the most reliable indicators of their true feelings. Their special treatment shows up in how quickly they respond to your communications compared to others. While they might take days to reply to friends or family members, your messages receive priority attention that contradicts their claims of having moved on. They'll answer your texts within hours while leaving others unread for days, return your calls promptly while letting others go to voicemail, and engage more thoughtfully in conversations with you than they do with people who are supposedly more important to them. Watch how they modify their typical emotional unavailability when it comes to your needs versus others' needs. The same person who struggles to provide emotional support to close friends or family members will make themselves available when you're going through difficult times. They'll break their own rules about emotional involvement, offering comfort and assistance they typically withhold from others, revealing that their capacity for care isn't uniformly limited, it's selectively applied. Their special treatment extends to remembering and honoring your preferences in ways they don't do for others. They'll accommodate your schedule when they won't adjust for anyone else, remember your dietary restrictions while forgetting others' preferences, and show consideration for your comfort that they rarely extend to other people in their life. This selective thoughtfulness indicates someone who's unconsciously prioritizing your well-being above others. The avoidant often makes exceptions to their personal boundaries and rules when it comes to you that they would never make for other people. They might accept behavior from you that they wouldn't tolerate from friends, make time for you when their schedule is packed, or engage in activities they typically avoid because you're involved. These exceptions reveal someone whose feelings for you override their standard operating procedures for managing relationships. Their tone and energy shift noticeably when they're interacting with you compared to how they engage with others. Even during periods when they're maintaining distance, their voice becomes warmer, their attention more focused, and their patience more abundant when you're involved. This difference in emotional availability demonstrates that their capacity for connection isn't universally limited. It's specifically reserved for people who matter most to them. They consistently go out of their way to ensure your comfort and happiness in situations where they wouldn't extend the same consideration to others. At social gatherings, they'll check if you need anything, ensure you're included in conversations, or subtly manage group dynamics to make sure you're comfortable. This protective attention operates almost automatically, revealing someone whose nervous system is constantly tuned to your well-being. The special treatment becomes most obvious when you're in distress or need support. The same person who struggles to be emotionally available for friends' crises will drop everything when you're having difficulties. They'll offer practical help, emotional comfort, or simply presence in ways that contradict their typical patterns of emotional withdrawal during others' vulnerable moments. Their gift-giving, gestures of care, and thoughtful actions also reveal preferential treatment that extends beyond what they offer to other important people in their life. They'll remember things you mentioned wanting, surprise you with gestures that show they've been thinking about you, or offer help with projects and problems while remaining largely unavailable for similar requests from others. The most revealing aspect of their special treatment is how they prioritize your opinions and feedback above others. They'll seek your perspective on decisions, value your input on their choices, and adjust their behavior based on your reactions in ways they don't do for other people. Your approval carries weight that others' opinions don't, and your disappointment affects them more deeply than criticism from people who are supposedly closer to them. Conclusion: understanding the fear behind the love. The signs of an avoidant's hidden love paint a picture of someone caught in an impossible psychological bind, loving you so deeply that it threatens their entire system of emotional self-protection, yet being unable to express that love directly because vulnerability feels like volunteering for emotional annihilation. Understanding this internal conflict is crucial for anyone trying to navigate a relationship with someone whose heart and head are locked in constant warfare over what safety means. The avoidant's love exists in a state of perpetual tension with their survival mechanisms. Every impulse to move closer to you triggers equally powerful impulses to retreat, creating the hot and cold patterns that define their approach to intimate connection. Their love isn't less real because it's hidden. It's hidden because it feels too real, too powerful, too threatening to their carefully constructed emotional independence. Their fear operates on multiple levels that make direct expression of love feel impossible. At the surface level, they fear your rejection, your judgment, your potential abandonment, once you see their flaws and limitations clearly. But deeper down, they fear their own capacity for need, their vulnerability to being hurt, and their complete lack of control over outcomes when emotions run this deep. Love to them represents a loss of the autonomy they depend on for psychological survival. The tragic irony is that their attempts to protect themselves from the pain of potential loss actually create the very abandonment they fear. By hiding their love, maintaining distance, and avoiding vulnerability, they often push away the people they most want to keep close. Their protective strategies become self-defeating prophecies that confirm their worst fears about relationships being unsustainable and love being dangerous. Understanding their fear doesn't mean accepting poor treatment or waiting indefinitely for someone to overcome their psychological barriers. It means recognizing that their withdrawal isn't about your worth, their mixed signals aren't about your lovability, and their inability to commit isn't about your value as a partner. Their limitations exist independently of your qualities and can't be healed through your patience, understanding, or love. The signs they still love you serve as information, not promises. They help you understand the truth of their feelings, which can provide closure, clarity, or comfort depending on your situation. But love that can't be expressed consistently, vulnerability that can't be sustained, and commitment that can't be offered reliably may not be enough to build the kind of relationship you deserve, regardless of how deep their hidden feelings might be. If you recognize these signs in an avoidance behavior toward you, the question isn't whether they love you. It's whether love that exists primarily in secret serves your needs for connection, security, and emotional intimacy. You deserve someone who can love you openly, consistently, and without the constant threat of withdrawal when emotions become too intense or real. The most compassionate response to recognizing an avoidant's hidden love is to protect yourself from investing in potential rather than reality, from hoping for changes that may never come, from accepting scraps of affection when you deserve the full feast of reciprocal, expressed, committed love. Understanding their fear can help you respond with empathy while maintaining your own emotional boundaries. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for both yourself and an avoidant who loves you but can't show it is to stop being available for their half-hearted attempts at connection. Your departure might be the catalyst that forces them to choose between their fear and their love, but even if it isn't, you'll have chosen yourself over someone else's emotional unavailability.